Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Kate Richburg, and it is time for Free Tip Friday. Sorry to keep you waiting a little bit. I was kind of looking around for my thread, so I had to make a quick thread decision. Janice and I did some bead shopping this morning, and I was in no fit state to see you on camera, but I think I've pulled it together, and we are ready to create together today. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Also, my earpiece wasn't really working so well. So if you hear a little bit of background noise, that's what it is. But that's what we've got here. On this Friday, the last day of September. Great to have you all here. I know that some of you were with me yesterday when we had our Great Bead Extravaganza takeover. It was a lot of fun. We had a fun, longer live broadcast than I thought we might have. We played around with some color and color paletting. So you can find that over on our YouTube channel if you missed it and want to rewatch it. It was really, really fun. So you can see our social media. You can find us at a bunch of different places on our social, including our Instagram at beadshop.com. Join us over at the Bead Table, our Bead Shop group over on Facebook. And of course, you can like, subscribe, and hit those notifications for our YouTube channel. We're getting really close to 100,000 subscribers, so I would really love it. It would just make my day if you would jump over there and subscribe. We'd love to have you there. So today we're going to do part 2 of our necklace. And also yesterday, what I did was I filmed a short little tutorial on just the knot that's going to go in the knot pendium. If you haven't seen our knot pendium playlist, it's a playlist of all of our knots, all of my favorite knots. And so that playlist is over on YouTube. And the link to it is also on our learning section over on beadshop.com. So that knot pendium pre-record will actually play tonight on all of the social on at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And you'll see it. It's just a short little 10-minute, but it'll go over this knot as well. So if you just want to see the knot, you don't have to wade through the whole broadcast. Okay. So let me change up the perspective here. And I want to show you before we get to this glorious mess that's on my table. I wanted to show you yesterday's color palette in case you missed it, because I think that it applies to what we're going to be doing today. What I played with yesterday was a lot of my own personal beads. You guys saw some beads from Bead Shop. And we used a trick, an oldie but a goodie. I used a book, a monograph that I got from the SF MoMA store when the Matisse Diebenkorn exhibit was up. And I used this, that wasn't the one. Hopefully I still have the page bookmarked here. I pulled, there it is. I pulled this Richard Diebenkorn. This one's called Berkeley number 57 from 1955, right? So this is the palette that I used. And it was really fun to do our palette from that. And so what we did, and you can go back and watch the broadcast, we actually laid out the beads on the painting, right? And so this was the color palette that we came up with. It's kind of in one big mess on my tray here, but that is the precursor to creativity, right? Here are my 3 little pieces that I started to string up like this. So you can look at it, check it out, and I think it'll maybe give you some springboard, some ideas for you for your color paletting. Okay, so there's that. So also I see in the comments you guys are chatting about the hurricane. A big hello, and I hope that all of our friends in Florida are safe. What a thing to come through, right? We've been thinking about you. We've been thinking good thoughts. So hopefully everything is okay on your end, everybody there. So we're thinking about you guys. And so let's take a look at this necklace, right? We kind of did an introduction to the new tribal and trade beads that we had. And I made this kind of tassel business here. And I did it. We used that knot, right? That flat Josephine centerpiece knot that I did. And we're going to string up the remainder of this. Now, yesterday when we were talking about beads and beadwork, we were talking about sizes of beads and things like that. And I pulled this piece down and I took a look at it. And as I was thinking today, you guys might remember this kit from a while back. I just love this necklace. I love it, love it. Maybe I'll wear it this weekend. I'm going to Lambtown, the Fiber Festival in Dixon, California. So if any of you go to Lambtown, stop over and say hi. I'll be out on the grass with my spinning wheel and my buddies. So it's going to be a fun fiber-filled weekend. But I was thinking about how these strands went together, okay? And thinking about how I did the tassel portion of these. And you can go back and watch the broadcast from that prior week, but you can see I strung and then I brought them all together like this, okay? So I think what I want to do is I want to echo this feeling. And I thought about like this strand that I did here with the wax linen, right? We've got the big beads and the small beads kind of mixed together. And then I was thinking about my thread choice and I cleaned up my space, which I should never do because I had some of that Irish wax linen that I was using, that dark chocolate color, and now I can't find it. I've got a couple of pieces here, which is good because I can do my silk wrapping with them. Whoops, sorry, I went into 2. There we go. But I don't have enough to string the rest of the necklace, right? I can't just walk over to our product because it's not here anymore, right? So, it's not here in my location. It's at an undisclosed location, right? It's at our distribution center. So I looked around. I have this wax linen, right? Which I like the color of, but I really kind of want it to match. So I actually found some Ceylon, which I'm happier with, I think, for the stringing. So I'm going to go with this dark brown Ceylon here, right? And I'm going to string with this. So what I'm going to do is we're going to make a connection here to connect the strands to. So I'm going to pin kind of this end out of the way to get it out of my reach here. And let's take a look. Let me get this centered. Now, I want to echo this look up here that I've got down here. I want to echo it up here. I've got some of these Carolina blue Ashanti saucers. The Ashanti saucers have different size holes, right? Some of the holes in them are large, some are smaller. These guys are a little bit bigger, so I can use these to do that weaving thing like this, right? So it's flat. Like so. And let's see what this looks like here. It's great to have everybody here. Janice is over on YouTube saying hello and chatting with everyone. Gita is over on Facebook doing some moderating over there. So it's great to have everybody here. Let's take a look here. I'm not in love with it. See here? Those Ashanti saucers, they're a little, it looks a little too face-like for me, right? And they're a little too close here. So I think I'm going to go with my original. I'm going to echo this, but I'm going to do it further up in the piece, right? So let's go ahead and open this up. All I really want to do here is make myself a loop to connect my strands to. Okay. So what I'm going to do so that this sits nicely is I'm going to make my loop and I'm going to clip it back here. So see, if I turn it to the side, I'll have room for my silk wrapping. That looks about right there. Okay. So now, thankfully, I saved 2 small pieces of this chocolate so that the silk wrapping down here and the silk wrapping up here will match. So I'm going to come in. We've got a skill builder on this silk wrap. So, but essentially I kind of go 1/3 to 2/3 here, lay it down on my loop like so. And I'm going to come in. Actually, I want a little more thread. And since I'm using the scrap of thread, I might have actually cut a little bit more, but it's not too bad. It's a good way to use up a scrap. So see, there we go. We're going to wrap it around and wrap and wrap. And so I've got enough room here to get my thread through. You can see it's kind of tight in there. So before I finish that up, you know, when you're kind of, what do I want to say? Going by the seat of your pants, kind of free-forming it, right? It's kind of like when you're driving down the road, right? You have to anticipate. You have to look at what's right in front of you, but you also need to look at like what hazards might be coming down the road, right? And I see this as a hazard coming down the road, okay? Because I don't have enough loop in there. So I'm actually going to unwrap enough room in that loop to get my thread through. So I'm cutting a long piece of thread. Let me go up here. This is a long piece of the Ceylon. I'm going to cut it and then I'll measure it because this feels right. I need enough to like knot and stuff. So there's a really super long piece here. Let me get my tape measure and I'll tell you how long this is. This is about 40 inches doubled. So it's about 80 inches or so. Okay. So I'm going to add it into that loop before I do anything else. So I won't have to fight with this to get the thread through. Okay. So I'm anticipating what's coming up for me. So there's that. I'll lay this down, and now I'll wrap. Okay, there we go. And we will wrap. There we go. And this. And this. Okay. Now when I come through here, I'm going to come through this loop. Hopefully you guys can see this. And pull this down. And that will pull that connection. Whoops, I don't want to pull it too far. I want that connection to sit right underneath this wrapping. There we go. And I'm going to pull on both of these. Okay, like this. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to show you that kind of close up. I'm also going to close the door here because there's a little bit of background noise that I don't want the camera to pick up. So you guys look at that. Look at that beautiful silk wrap. Okay. So I think I would repeat it on the second side, but for today, we're just going to keep going with that side. And I'm going to make the top of this piece symmetrical. What I string on this side, I'm going to string on this side, right? So I'll come in, since this is the wax linen, I don't need to worry. I'm going to just come here. Like that. And this one. Okay. And then this leather, I can also cut away. And I'm going to cut it on the angle, and I'm going to cut it a little bit longer. Okay. So there's that one. Then I'll do the same over here on this side. Okay. So let me pull this camera up like this, and let's go ahead and start to string. Now, I've got this kind of mishmash of beads, right, that I'm going to use. And if it's going to be the same on both sides, I need to, what we call, spend. It's a little term we use. I need to spend the beads equally on both sides of my necklace. So I'm going to divide them up. Okay. So here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So 3, 6 on that side, 2, 4, 6, 6 for this side. 2 of those black stripe. One of these, this one will be the clasp. So I'm going to put this in a bowl over here. So I know that's where that goes. I've got 2 of these, 2 of these. That way I don't accidentally use them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a spare. These guys, that's a spare. Those 2. These, and since you all are watching, it's forcing me to make these decisions quickly, right? So 1 of those, 1 of those. 2 and 2, 2 and 2, 1 here, 1 here and here, and the rest of those are all singles. I also have these here, these big kind of crimps, the big Evolve crimps. I don't know whether I'm going to use those or not. And oh, look, I've got 2 more of the tubes. Perfect. I found 2 more. Yeah, this is known as mirroring, right? So I'm going to mirror, I'm going to string one side and then I'll mirror it on the other. I think I'm also going to use, I've been having that little love affair with these temple beads. Don't tell my beloved shadow beads, but I think I'm going to use those. Okay. So, here we go. Let's go ahead and start stringing this up. Let me get this a little bit closer. Now is the time, if you wanted to take a screenshot, now's the time to do it. I'm also going to turn the air on in here because all of a sudden I'm super warm, as Janice likes to say when we do shows together. She would look over at me and go, air. So that's what I'm doing right now. Give me some air on that. Beading is warm work. Okay, so if everyone's gotten their screenshots, let's go ahead and start stringing this up. So here's my double strand of Ceylon. And the Ceylon, I hope I haven't lost that other piece of wax linen to do the other side. Well, hopefully I'll find it. I'm not going to do it at this very moment, but it's somewhere. Maybe it fell on the floor. Anyway, I'll find it. But you can see that, oh no, here it is. I need to put that with the button. You can see that it's really close to the same color. So I'm going to put this over in my little bowl. I'm sure I've got more of this somewhere, but I'm just going to make sure I don't lose it. And so now I'm going to start to string. I'm going to put the other half of my mirrored stuff in another bowl so it's out of the way and I don't accidentally use it, right? So let me throw all of these guys in this little bowl. Beading is a great excuse to buy a bunch of cute little bowls for your stuff, right? I think I dropped one of the beads here somewhere, but I will find it. So those will go up next to that bead for the end. Okay, for the end. So here's all of the beads that I have to spend on this side. So let me put these over here. Lots of bowls. All right. This is evened out. And I should have done this earlier so it had a chance to dry, but I'm going to put little needles on the end of this too, just for fun. The Ceylon is pretty stiff and these holes are pretty large, but I'm going to do it anyway. I've got my Zap glue. Let me use a little baggie. That big baggie I can use. Here's this. My little bit of Zap right there. And then I'm going to come in, fold it up like a little taco, and get that glue in there. Okay. And then I'm going to add just a little bit more. That's hilarious. I didn't know we needed an excuse for buying cute little bowls. Well, we don't really. You know, I can justify anything, really. Right? So if you need an excuse, there's your excuse. I've got a bunch of cute ones. Emily buys me a bunch of them. This is one that Emily bought me. I have some that were gifts. This pretty little one was a gift. I've got a couple from my friend Cynthia. I love little bowls. Let's get this on there too. That Zap glue, that little needle. And make sure you use plenty of the zap so that your thread really has a lot of it in there. We did that a lot at the retreat. It was super helpful for stringing. And the zap really sets up pretty quickly. This is the first one I did. So I'm going to come in with my thread clipper, my Xuron thread shear, and I'll just give myself an angle cut just like that. See that little angle? That really makes a difference too when you're stringing. Get this one over here and angle cut. My mom says she made glue needles the other day and she got glue all over her hands. Well, you know, sometimes that happens, but I try and have good glue habits, right? You know, I don't mind getting stuff all over my hands, but what are you going to do? So I think what I'm going to do here, you guys, since I need everything to taper a little bit, okay, I'm going to come down so you guys can see it. I'm going to start with some smaller beads, and I'm hoping I like this outcome, right? I just kind of have to go for it because, and yes, there's an excuse for buying cute gloves. Exactly. You should see my glove collection, and I'm not kidding. All of the ladies in my family figured that I would be the repository for my great aunts and grandmothers' gloves. So my vintage glove collection is a little nuts. So let's do that one, and let's do this one here, this green one. And I'll see how that looks. Yep, I like it. Looks great. And I'm going to come in. This is why I cut such a long piece of thread. I'm going to make a loop and tie my knot. And I want some of my thread to show here because I've got that same thread showing down here. If you have issues, Leslie, with your zap kind of gushing out when you open it up, what I would do when you store your zap is store it bottom down, tip up in the air, okay? That's what I would do so that gravity kind of tells the glue where to sit. That may help with you. And I actually have all my glue in a little bin so everybody is sitting on its foot like that. That might help. So here's this. You know, I feel like I said I was only going to string this one side, but I feel like I want to see the other side grow at the same time. Do you feel that way? So I'm just going to do this real quick. And if that's what the bead muse is telling me, that's what the bead muse is telling me, right? I won't zap needle these ends. It might be a little bit more of a struggle, but I'm going to go a little bit more at Kate speed here. For this, cut this up. So this weekend, while I do this, this weekend I am going to be in Dixon, California at the Lambtown Fiber Festival. I'm really excited. Part of my job as an omnicrafter is to explore a bunch of different handcrafts, and textiles and spinning and weaving and knitting are all literally in my wheelhouse. So I'm really excited to see Lambtown is back after a 2-year hiatus from not being able to gather due to COVID. So I'm really excited about that. I'm seeing one of my high school besties. We've been friends longer than we haven't, which is great. And I'm going to also see Emily. We're going to get together for lunch on Sunday. So I'm going to see Emily. So I'm excited about all of that. If you want to follow my crafty adventures this weekend, you can follow me on my Insta. It's at Bead Kate. I'm going to be posting this weekend about my fibery adventures. So you can see that. I don't know if any of you are knitters or spinners or weavers, but it's going to be fun. I think it's really important when you do handcrafts that sometimes you mix it up. I mean, I know it's kind of sacrilegious to say, but we can't bead 100% of the time, right? I like to kind of mix it up and see what were, some different ideas. So this weekend, those ideas are going to come in the form of lots of color with thread and yarn and fiber. Okay, so I'm going to pull these two sides like that. That's good. Oh, Leslie, tatting. Yes, your mother-in-law did some tatting. My gran did tatting. She taught me how to do that. I have done it. My friend Sue, who I'm meeting, Sue has also done some tatting. I've got some old tatting shuttles from, I think they might have been my great-grandmother's. It's kind of fun. Oh, Queen Tut, you're going to Rhinebeck. There it is. That is on my bucket list, right? Rhinebeck. Different coast, but someday I'll get there. That's like the Super Bowl of fiber shows. Lambtown is just a kind of a small one at the Dixon Fairgrounds, Dixon, California. It's in the Central Valley. It's north of me here, but it is a really great, it's a farming community, of course, like most of the towns here in the California Central Valley are. So it's really fun. And you see they have like sheep herding. They have a sheep to shawl contest where you start, you spin, you have a team, and part of your team spins the yarn and the other part of your team weaves the shawl, and you have all day. Usually it's a team of about 8 or so. You have all day to complete your shawl, and then they judge it. And so you can go to the Lambtown website. You can Google it, Lambtown. See the sheep to shawl. It's all, I know it's that time at yarn camp. But it's pretty cool to see like the spinners spinning and the weavers weaving, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see. I know that Oregon does have a couple of fiber festivals. They're escaping me now. But there's a lot of weaving and fiber here on the west coast of the US. So now I'm just going to come in and I'm going to do some more weaving. So let me try this again and see how this looks. And so, yeah, Dixon, it's near Davis, right? So it's in the central, it's near the Delta, north of San Francisco, but in the interior. It's kind of a cool little place. Yep. The Central Valley, it's such an interesting and rich kind of agricultural background for sure. It's going to be a nice drive tomorrow. So see there? There we go. Oh, hello from Rome. Hello, our watcher from Rome. Buongiorno. Come stai? That's as far as my Italian goes, though. My grandparents once in a while would converse in the Italian, but my Italian's not very good. There we go. But it's great to have you. There we go. So I'm just going to, oh, Flock and Fiber, yes, and the Black Sheep in Eugene. Yes, Flock and Fiber, that is right. Thank you, Carrie. I knew there was a couple. Yeah, the Black Sheep Gathering, that's another one. That's another good one. Yeah, yep. And there was a big, like the Sock Summit, right? And Madrona, those were in, the Sock Summit, I think, was in Tacoma, right? Um, yeah, it was cool. I love that we're now slowly being able to get back to gathering again and being creative in our gathering. Lambtown was on hiatus for those couple of years, so it'll be great to see fiber and yarn again. So see how these two, there were coming. Janice, I thought you went to the Maryland Sheep and Wool, I think, and not Rhinebeck. Rhinebeck is in New York. I think you went to Maryland Sheep and Wool, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you did go to Rhinebeck too. I don't know. But you did bring me fiber, and I have already spun it. So I might have a little bit of it left, but not a lot. I'm definitely going to be spinning this weekend. I do have 3, count them, 3 spinning wheels. My mom bought me my first one. I think it was Maryland Sheep and Wool, Janice, but I could be wrong. I don't know. It was a while back. I don't know. Who knows? I can't remember either. So we're just gonna string. And I like this technique. This is a technique that Emily uses a lot too. You can see it. We've done a couple of projects where Emily uses like seed beads and she kind of knots them together on 2 strands and they come together kind of like this. So you can do this with tiny beads or with big beads. But see how I really did need to have both sides here so I could see how it's shaping up. One side just wasn't sufficient for me, right? And if you like crafty gatherings, I've mentioned it before, but I'll take this moment to mention it again. Our Bead retreat will be coming up again next year in 2023 in the beautiful town of San Juan Bautista, California. It starts August 18th of next year and goes until the 21st, I believe. There'll be more information on the beadshop.com website. But we will open up registration. All rooms there are private rooms, so you don't have to worry about sharing with anyone. Whoops, you know what I'm doing? I'm using beads from both sides on this. I need to use, so let me give these beads back that I used for the other side. There we go. Okay. These are the beads for that side. Here, let me put like when you're in the car, right, with your siblings, and you say, don't cross this line. Maybe that was just me and Scotty and Julie. Maybe that was just the 3 of us. There we go. Don't cross this line, right? So there we go. Okay. So the first bead, it can go the other way. Yeah, I can twist it. I don't know. I did put it the same side. I don't know. This will twist, so I'm not really particularly worried about it. Yeah, there we go. It kind of twists like that. And then it kind of comes out like so. Okay. So, it's going to twist around. I'm not going to worry too much. So now let's come in. I think I want to do this doubled, maybe. And since this is live, I'm going a little bit faster than I might. But maybe I want the mustard here. And doing this with the Ceylon will actually make my closure a lot easier, right? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a macrame loop and closure. So here's this one. I think I need like one of those temple beads. Yeah, my mom and I, we do this quilt retreat. That's something else. You guys should really treat yourself to an artistic retreat experience in any shape or form or show. My mom and I go the beginning of November to quilt together. We do it once a year. We've been doing it once a year for, I don't know, 15 years or something like that. And we sit and we sew. We may or may not drink gin. I cannot confirm or deny that fact that quilting goes so much better with a gin and tonic. Yes, I can. It goes better with a gin and tonic, I'll tell you. But it's fun. And you can, I think it's important to kind of explore different crafty pursuits. Maybe it's baking, maybe it's gardening. I don't know. Whatever floats your boat, right? But we can't bead 24/7. And yeah, I have done videos, live videos from the retreat. I've done it before. The reception up there isn't great, so we'll see. I'll see if I can do a live broadcast from up there. The reception goes in and out, but we have done Free Tip Friday from there before. So here's this. So see, these are kind of coming together. Let me do, I feel like I want to bring these together. Oh, and see, I'm doing it again. I'm spending all my beads from over here. So do not cross this line. There we go. All of our broadcasts, there was a quick question about how to watch this from the beginning. All of our broadcasts, all 6 years of the broadcasts that I've been doing with Bead Shop live over on our YouTube channel. They live on our website as well. But a great place to watch them is our YouTube channel. And I've made some playlists that you can watch as well. Maybe I'll put these through. So yes. Oh, Michelle, you remember that. The suitcase on the tree stump live. You remember that? That I think was the Great Bead Extravaganza bead trade, I think, that I did. And I had no reception at all. God, that was horrible. I did that with Jill McKay. She was such a trooper. That was fun. Yeah, I never did finish that necklace, to be honest. What a surprise. No surprise there. Let me do 2 of these and see what that looks like. There we go. That looks good. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, going live, not for the faint of heart. I like how that looks. Let me do that over here. Make sure I use the right ones. How are we doing on time? I'm going to string a few more and then I'm going to talk about how to close this, okay? So you guys can see that. Because it's really pretty easy to finish this up. But let me do this. I'm feeling like I need a little bit of a pattern or something. So I put these 2 together. Now what I'm going to do is maybe do this one. Yes. That's starting to come together. And let it just let it evolve, literally. So there's that. And let me put these two, let me bookend it. Yeah, these large beads, these are those large crimp tubes that I used with the leather. They do look really good as beads, right? Look at how cool that section looks. Let me go ahead and knot this. Okay, like that. So these are crimps. So these were marketed, or we sell them as crimps. You've seen me use them before with leather, right? But they're also kind of like giant bugle beads, right? This is very similar to that color palette that I made the other day, maybe, or yesterday. Maybe I'm just kind of, this color way is kind of on my mind, I guess. So, Leslie, thank you for that kind comment. I have been stringing. This is my 30-year anniversary. 30 years ago in August 14th of 1992 is when I started my job at the brick and mortar bead shop in Palo Alto, California. So that's been a while. So, yeah, I've been doing this for quite some time. I do make it look easy. That's my job. But like anything, you have to practice, right? It's like riding a bike, right? You don't just get on your bike one day and know how to ride. You've got to have those training wheels first, and then you keep going, right? Maybe here, instead of a knot, maybe I'll put can you guys see this? I can get these two strands in there. The temple beads have some big beads, some big holes in them. Can I get both of them in there? This side doesn't have the zap, but maybe I can coax it. If they had the zap, it would sail right through. There we go. Yeah, I don't know. Yellow is having a moment with me. I don't know why, but it is. It really, really is. There we go. So, yes, Janice and I have known each other. Janice is really, besides my family and a few select friends, is my longest relationship. And I think that's probably true on the reverse, right? 30 years. No wonder we know what each other's thinking all the time. even when we don't talk over the weekend or whatever. So look at that's, I'm going to come up so you can see this. Melanie, you're asking, could you use beading wire or soft flex to do this? You sure could. Let me show you. Let me tie this knot. Let me tighten this up and let's look at this close up, okay? We don't want this to be too tight. It needs some air to breathe, so let me pull that a little bit. There we go. Okay, let's get a little tighter here so you guys can see what this looks like. Right? So if I were going to use soft flex, say, and I've got some soft flex sitting here from yesterday. Let me get this little piece here. This was from the demon corn necklace. Right, so if I were doing soft flex, what I would probably do is I wouldn't knot it, right? I would probably cover, or I might use soft flex in a color, maybe. Or I might cover the soft flex where it shows around the beads with 11 knots, right? And then here, where I'm knotting, I might crimp with a crimp tube and cover it with a crimp cover. Or I might just bring it together under a bead so nothing is knotted. But you definitely could. And wherever you didn't want to see the soft flex itself, just cover it with a small bead and that should work. Okay. All right. Let me do this other side and then I'll hold it up. We'll look at the length and we'll talk about closure. We'll give this some closure. This is the side with the zap, so it's faster. It's definitely worth making those needles, I'll tell you. And then a Padre bead. That hole's a little bit small. That one's better. See how big that hole is in that temple? Yeah, I'm loving the yellow. I think it's because we want happy things right now. Things still seem kind of fraught in the world, right? So working with happy colors, I think, is a good thing. We should maybe carry some soft flex in colors. They have such beautiful colors. We carry the bronze and we carry the original. But they do have, I have some colors here that soft flex has gifted me. They're such pretty things, and the colored soft flex would look really nice being woven in and out of this. We'll put that on our list. Janice and I can chat about it. So I'm going to hold this up. Yeah, and colored soft flex you wouldn't really need to cover, right? Let me pull this down a little bit so you can see this, and I'm wearing the right shirt for it today, right? Let me get rid of these earrings because they're too distracting. There we go. So if I were making this to fit me, this is probably about the length that I would make it, or so, thereabouts, right? So let me hold where this goes, and I'll show you how much I've got left to string. Not that much. Let me measure. It's about right here. Get my measuring tape. Maybe about 7 more inches, maybe 6. So not that much more. So I need to start spending, I should have put one of these down here, but I need to start spending kind of these fancy beads. So I think that's what's going to come next. Whoops, my camera. Let's see if it comes back. Sometimes the signal on my phone. Sorry about that. There we go. Sometimes the signal on my phone cuts out. This is real pretty, and then, I don't know, maybe I would stack. I need to get these green ones in there, so maybe I'd stack the green like that. Anyway, right? There's not a whole lot that needs to happen here with this. So then, to close this off, what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to tie a little knot up here, and then I'm going to untie it here. But let's say I've ended my piece here, okay, like this. What I would do is I would get a bead that has a big hole, maybe like 3 of these, and get these on there. And then my clasp bead in one side and out the other. I'm going to have to look at this. The beads are all a mess now. I'm going to have to divide them up again, but that's all right. So I pull on those threads and I even this out, right? So there we go. And then I come back down I actually don't think that, well, no, I bet I could. Let me see. You might have to pick through these Padre beads a little bit to get beads that have the largest holes. Let's see if I can get them back through. You could also pick beads that had just a slightly larger hole, but I'm going with what I've got sitting here. Okay. And the question was, can you tie knots in soft flex? Yeah, soft flex, they do tie knots in soft flex. Sarah Ayler from Soft Flex, she does designs where she knots with the soft flex. I don't do a lot of knotting with soft flex because I don't like to knot the wire that much. This one doesn't want to go through, so I would have to pick and choose my beads a little more carefully if I'm doing it that way. But I'm just going to pull these down and you'll be able to see this. But see how all of these beads, I'm just going to come and I'll push these up like this so it's nice and tight here. Sorry, I'm a little bit off the edge. There we go. Okay. And then I'd come back down and then I will just tie this off, right? And close it up here. Then on this side, what I would do is I would get another piece of this Ceylon and I would make a macrame loop. Macrame, macrame, macrame until that's covered. Then macrame it closed like that. And then that would slip through like so. Kind of like this piece that I've got here of Allie's. You can see it here. Let me undo this. Okay. Let me get this open if I can. There we go. And you've seen me do this macrame loop before, but essentially you come up, macrame, 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 make sure that loop is going to fit over whatever button or bead it's going to go over, and then you just come back, macrame down, and singe it off, glue it and singe it off. Okay. You could also use a button. This is the same kind of ending, right? You could use a button instead of a bead, but that is how we would go ahead and finish it. So I've got about 7 inches left, not a whole lot. I'll go ahead and finish it off and I'll have Drea, I'll send it over to Claire and she will photograph this sucker. But that's it. That's it, whoops, for this one, right? And we've got the skill builder. Gita just linked it to do the macrame, but we've done this macrame closure many, many times together. Macrame around, bring it back down. It's a nice, elegant look. And I'm glad using the Ceylon with this. I think it's going to make a nice closure. It's the same color as that Irish wax linen that I used, and it has a little bit more swing to it, so I think it's good. I could, if I felt like I needed another strand here, I could always introduce another strand of thread, right? Like, let's say if I'm like, well, maybe I want some little beads coming up here, but I kind of like this single strand. I think it's okay. So, a piece like this, it's super whimsical. It, it's not, right, like pearls and crystal, right? Has some, what do I want to say? Depth to it. That's not really the right word, but it's a little, has a little more visual interest, right? So, don't be afraid to mix it up and mix up the color. More organic. Thank you, Melanie. That's exactly what I wanted to say. So something like this on a top like this, I think it would look pretty cool, right? So I don't have that much more to go, but just go with your gut. And one of the things that I talked about yesterday when we were designing is, you guys, right, that these are only beads. So if you string this up and you're like, yeah, it's not really what I'm looking for, it's not really the exact right one for me, right? Just cut it up, right? Cut it up, restring it, right? That's it. That's all you do, right? And the sides, these are all great questions. The sides don't have to match, right? It could totally be asymmetrical, whatever works for you. And the strand, adding a strand to macrame, I would. Let me go back to this camera and just show you where I'd add it. So if this is here and my ending is here, right? Let me just tie a knot like this. Okay. And what I would do is, here's my beads that are coming up. I would fasten it to one side of my board. Since it's just thread, I'll fasten it here. But I would get like my little leash or whatever and do it there. And then this is where I do the macrame portion, just like I would do it on anything else. And then I'd have that new piece. You could also do it with a different color if you wanted your loop to also be more colorful. Maybe I'd get about 20 inches of thread, and then I'd just start my macrame, find the center, and start my macrame. Just like that, okay? And then you'd macrame down, macrame, 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 as long as that piece needed to go over your bead. Unclip, bring it back together, and macrame those ends together like this, right? So there you go. Right, good. I see that you see, Michelle. Perfect. Great. Well, you guys, that is it. That's it for me. And that's it for September. So I should put my earrings back on. I am completely jewelryless. What a travesty. I hope that you all have a really fantastic and creative weekend. Watch for that knot, the flat Josephine centerpiece knot. If you want just that tutorial, it's going to show, it's not live, it's pre-recorded, but it's going to go up at 5 o'clock Pacific time. So you'll see it there, and it'll be in the knot pendium section. Okay, so you'll see that there. Next week, we're going to kick off October with some fun stuff. I think you're going to love it. Also, tomorrow, don't forget, tomorrow's October 1st. You know what drops on the very first of the month? It's the monthly mix. I think you're going to like it. I will tell you that it's all 6/0, and that's all I'll say. All right, thank you, everybody, so much for joining me. I will see you next week, and don't forget to give us a follow on all of our social. You can find me at Bead Kate on Instagram if you want to take a look at some of my crafty pursuits this weekend in the fiber world. Thanks so much, everybody, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.